I've got General Williamson, a question that's a little different in that if you've been following some of the stories coming out of the IAEA, some of the stories in the open press regarding theft of nuclear materials, the IAEA recently warned that the international community about this increased danger of potential nuclear incidents because we've seen theft and misuse of nuclear materials worldwide. We've seen some incidences in Mexico and Iraq. Such an incident at home or abroad would have real implications for servicemen and women who'd have to respond, who would be at risk for radiation exposure were something were they to have to respond to that. So one of the things that I think is essential is that all of our soldiers have the most up-to-date dosimeter technology to be able to deal with something in the case that they had to detect and combat these sorts of threats. Is it true that the majority of the devices that we use to measure radiation exposure for our soldiers were developed back in the Cold War with 1960s technology and are lacking the ability to relay information the way that modern information is typically relayed quickly and precisely in a network sort of situation?
So you're correct. The technology that was employed in our existing systems, and specifically we have an AN PDR-75 dosimeter, and that's what we use within the Guard, the Reserve, and the active duty forces. It is an effective system, but I would tell you that after the disaster in Japan, as we helped the Japanese government, one of the things that we discovered was I'll call it a gap. So as you looked at the ability to read the response, what we found is that was all kind of manual.
Right.
And so the intent, what we learned there was we needed to automate that. And so we did a joint program. We are engaged with the Navy to build a new series of dosimeters. And if you're familiar within the Army, we have something called the Net Warrior, which takes advantage of commercial technologies, and it gives you situational awareness. And so the connection between this new dosimeter will be to automatically send those updates so that you can get some early warning and reduce the threat of exposure. Now, right now, that program, the path it's on right now, will get you to the deployment of new systems in the 20 time frame. And so there's still some development work that has to be done in testing, but we think we're on the right path for a better dosimeter.
Okay. I've exhausted my time, so I'll yield back, Mr. Chair.